Hello, this is Rick Mascaro, Executive Director at Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield, New York. Welcome to our Reader's Theater presentations of the 20 semifinal plays of our Juicebox One-Act Play Competition. Over the past 10 months, the competition has narrowed from approximately 200 entries to the following 20 semifinalist plays, including 10 comedies and 10 dramas. Each of these plays are being performed by the Lakeshore Center for the Arts Reader's Theater Ensemble. We hope you enjoy the presentations, and we invite your feedback. More Than Kin by playwright Ron Davies.
When I went to the doctor's office, he was looking at my file. On his screen, I could see the form that I had filled in when I first became his patient. I'd left one line blank. He looked up at me and asked,
Who's next of kin?
That was a moment when I realized the test results weren't good. Later, while he was explaining about grades and stages and metastases, I kept wondering who was my next of kin. My brother had passed. He'd never had kids. Last year, I heard my ex-wife had died of a stroke. There was only one person now closely related to me by blood or marriage, my daughter. I hadn't been in touch with her since she was 11. When I got home, I searched the internet. My daughter's married name was listed in her mother's obituary. That led me to a Facebook page and post in a support forum. I learned she's got 2 girls of her own, and she's involved in organizing activities at their school. Her phone number was listed in a parent-teacher newsletter. My sponsor said now was the time if I was ever going to make amends. So Sunday afternoon, I sat down at the kitchen table and called. I thought a mother with 2 kids might not be so busy then. I'd hoped she'd want to talk so we could put our issues to rest. But then I wondered whether she was ready for this and whether I was. I started to hang up when someone answered.
Hello?
She's grown up now, of course, but I recognized the voice. For a moment, I couldn't speak.
Hello? Who is this?
It's your father.
My father's dead.
I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut and then pushed over the edge into my own grave until I realized she meant her stepfather. He'd helped to raise her after I was gone. Your real father. In the silence that followed, I flashed back to the years I'd spent on the inside. They had this visiting area, a room divided by a wooden counter and glass panels up to the ceiling. You sat on one side and your visitor on the other. There were phones that hung on hooks that you picked up to talk. When my brother came to visit, I couldn't shake his hand or put my arm around his shoulders. All I could do was hold a hand up to the glass and fan out my fingers. My brother would do the same, press his palm to the glass where my hand was, spread his fingers so they lined up with mine. To the guard standing back by the door, it must have looked like our hands were touching. But between us, there was always that sheet of glass. Now, after what seemed like ages, my daughter said,
A real father would never have done the things you did.
She'd always been a sweet girl, eager to please, always trying to make peace. So I knew she wasn't saying this to hurt me. She was only trying to cope with her own pain. I said, I did awful things, I know, but I loved you. I know it's hard to understand, but it's true.
The way you touched me? The way you made me touch you? You think that I've forgotten?
You see, back when she was a girl, there was a time when everything fell apart. As the first of the 12 steps says, my life became unimaginable. I didn't have any belief to sustain me, any purpose in life. I'd lost my teaching job after a stupid misunderstanding with a girl who came around after school for help with a Shakespeare sonnet. After that, I couldn't get any decent kind of job. My ex-wife and I fought all the time. I had no friends, no one I could talk to about literature and music and films. Like so many others, I looked for comfort in the bottom of a bottle. Booze, pills, drugs, out in bars, on street corners, or on sagging sofas in rundown apartments. And late at night, I'd stagger home, stand in a dark hallway, listening to the silence. Sometimes I used to open the door to my daughter's room, looking for someone to hold. someone to hold me. I'd stay a while and then spend the rest of the night on the sofa. Until one night I fell asleep and was still laying beside her in the morning when her mother came in. Now I said to my daughter, what I did was wrong. I know I hurt you terribly.
You think just saying that makes it better?
I'm not like that anymore. I face the wrongs I did every day. I humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings.
What's that, step 5 or 6?
I was surprised. You know the 12 steps?
They've got a version for survivors of abuse. So what are you doing? Step 8? Trying to make amends?
Trying.
And why now, after all these years?
I explained what the doctor had told me, and she said,
So what do you want me to do about it?
which was funny, because that's what the doctor had asked me after he told me the results of the scans.
There are several treatments and procedures I could order. None of them is a cure, but they could give you a few more months. So, what do you want me to do?
I never talked to people about my time in prison, but I found myself telling this doctor how nothing was worse than sitting in a cell day after day, tormenting yourself with hopes of an early release that was never going to happen. I didn't see the point in just prolonging things. He said,
I think I'd feel the same if I were in your shoes.
and he started to write prescription for painkillers. I had to remind him I was an addict.
That's not going to make any difference now.
But I'd taken a pledge, and I hadn't missed a meeting for years. I wasn't going to start taking pills. So he gave me a brochure that had a smiling nurse and pink scrubs on the cover, and a phone number to call when I couldn't manage on my own. And then he said,
At least in the time that's left, do things that give you pleasure. Eat whatever you want. Ice cream 3 times a day if that's what you feel like. Do you have any questions?
I have nothing but questions, but none I think you can answer. I told all this to my daughter, and trying to keep the tone light, trying to make a joke, I said, you know me, I've never been crazy about ice cream. What flavors will I like? And she said,
Rum and raisin.
it wasn't all that funny, but she started to laugh, and then she couldn't stop. And she went on laughing and laughing until I realized she wasn't laughing anymore, but sobbing. Sweetheart, don't. Please don't. Stop, please. But she couldn't. Step 9 says you shouldn't try to make amends if it injures the person you hurt in the first place. So I just said, I love you. And goodbye. After I hung up, I sat for a long time without moving. It was only after some minutes that I realized that I had my hand in the air, fingers splayed, though there was no glass and no one on the other side. I wondered what I expected from the call. Not forgiveness. It was too late for that. Or maybe it was too soon. But I hoped that knowing I'd reached out, I might help my daughter find her own kind of peace. At least now I had a contact for my next of kin, a phone number the doctor's office could call when it was over. I'm going to fix things so my daughter gets whatever money is left in the bank account, whatever money I haven't spent on ice cream, and I pray that sometime in the future, when she comes to think of her kin, when she comes to think of me, she'll not be less than kind.
This has been a Reader's Theater production at Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield, New York, as part of our one-act play competition. Visit our site at lakeshorecenterforthearts.com for additional information.